This is my channel about role-playing games and Dungeons and Dragons in particular. Do I sound like that? In this video we will look at dramatical choices that determine life or death of the fighter. After all, this is what adventuring is about. As you see, I have created a new program, similar to the one you watched in the previous video. You see that I created hit points for the orc and the fighter again. First thing that happens is that the orc hits the fighter, dealing 8 points of damage. This means that there is only 7 HP left. This means that the orc can win with the next attack. Let us create a choice for the fighter, either to hit the orc, or to drink a healing potion. First, we need a variable to store the choice. Let's call this variable choice and make it a string. Next, we need to provide some information for the player about the available choices. We simply explain in either two next lines that the player can press 1 to attack or press 2 to drink a potion. At the last line, we read the input from the player. The code for this is similar to the console write line. Just type console. Read. Line. As before, end with a semicolon. You might note two things here. Firstly, we use the read line in combination with the choice variable. This means that this variable will have any value that the player enters on their keyboard. The other thing is that we write parentheses at the end, even if there is nothing written in them. The parentheses simply mean that we are using a method, and you will learn more about these in later videos. Now comes the cool part. First, simply write if with a parenthesis afterwards. In this parenthesis we write the conditions. In this case, we check if the player selected the first option. The player's selection is stored in the variable called choice, so we need to see if they typed 1. When checking if two values are equal, you don't use the single equality sign, but two equality signs. Remember that the variable is a string, so we put number 1 within quotation marks. After this, you do not write a semicolon, but rather go down a line and write a pair of brackets. The code we write between the brackets will run, if the condition is true, but only then. If the player types anything else than 1, nothing will happen. Press Ctrl F5 to see how it works now. To add a second option, you write exactly the same way, with an if, a condition in the parenthesis and brackets below. The only difference is that you write else before the if. You can add as many of these else if as you like. There is a last option if none of the conditions have been true. Instead of if or else if, you simply write else, with brackets under. If every condition before has failed, that code will run. In our example, we first check if the player selected option 1. Then we checked if option 2 was selected. If neither of these have been selected, the player will lose the battle, for being unable to make a proper decision. Let's add some more code to our example. First, if the fighter attacks, we deal 5 points of damage to the orc. Then, if the fighter drinks the potion, we add 5 hit points. Lastly, if the fighter did not choose either option 1 or 2, we lower the hit points to 0. After the decision, we should let the player see the hit points of the fighter and the orc again. Simply copy the code from the start of the program. If you like, you could experiment with the code, to add more if statements. If the fighter survived, how will the rest of the battle go? The important thing is that you are writing code that is dynamic and lets the user interact with it. Later you will see that these techniques are also used for analyzing data. In the next video, we will look at loops. There are more than one kind, so we will start slowly. With that, I say Farewell, and be heroic.